Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Talking Games with Kellie and Andrew. I'm Andrew.
I'm Kellie.
How are you, Kellie?
I'm good. I'm getting over a cold.
That's okay. I'll forgive you.
Thank you. What else? It's really gross outside right now. It's like rain snowing. It's cold.
Wet.
It's wet. Very wet outside.
But did the snow stick by your house?
What?
Did the snow stick at your house?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it stuck last night. I looked outside and there was snow on the trees and on the rooftops and on the cars and on the ground. Yeah, it stuck.
Okay.
But then
You just described everywhere that it stuck.
And it was kind of cool, like going to bed. You know when it snows and it's kind of like light out because all the light that is existing outside is reflecting. I could see it through my window when I was going to bed. And it felt very like Winter Wonderland, really nice, beautiful.
It did look pretty while it was snowing.
It looked very pretty.
It snowed more where you live, though, than where I live.
Yeah, and for the sports watchers, there was a football game last night. It got snowy. That was fun. I know we have a lot of Pittsburgh heads who listen to our podcast, so sorry that you lost.
Oh.
But what else was I going to say? Oh, but I woke up this morning and it was all completely gone. So
yep.
It's kind of sad, but it was also like, you know what? It is only November. We can wait. I just hope that
we probably should have snow by now, but
it's definitely been a warm November. I don't think that we really get snow in Ohio until like January now. So
that's concerning. Anyway,
I think things are great, actually.
Things are great. You know what is great? There is something great.
Yes.
And not to get too meta. This is not meta, I guess. So this first bit of news was announced during a rough time, shall we say. We as Americans were watching some difficult news unfold.
That's right.
And as it unfolded, Nintendo let us know. They said, "Hey guys, we know that you're having a tough time, so we want to assure you that next year not everything will be bad because the Switch 2 backwards compatible." And I think a lot of people are like, yeah, that's a given. If you pay attention to Nintendo, if you've been around for history, that was not a given. It was something that seemed like it should be, but it's not. And I was genuinely over the moon to hear this news.
Yeah, this is great news.
I think... Go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
I just think one of the best parts is like the Nintendo Switch Online program. There's so many games that have been added to that over the past few years that like having to start again would have been extremely frustrating. So now we just get to start from where we already are and keep building up, you know, and maybe add some more additional stuff like GameCube or DS, you know?
Yeah. Yep. I'm excited.
You can play Garfield Kart Furious Racing on your Switch too.
I still have that downloaded.
Why wouldn't you? It's like 100 megabytes.
Because, yeah, I guess that's a good point. I don't really play on my Switch as much. I don't know the last time I played on my Switch, to be honest with you. But this is great news because there are a lot of Switch games that I really like. And you know me, I'm a nostalgia gamer. I like to go back and play games for comfort purposes. So that'll be nice once the Switch 2 does come out to have the capability to play those games without having to lug the old Switch out. But
it just seemed like an inconvenient console to have to bring back out, you know, particularly.
Yeah, you're very right about that.
So, and now I'm very curious what this means as far as like console compatibility, like docks and stuff. Like, will the Switch 2 dock work with Switch 1, but not vice versa? Because like you have to be able to put Switch 1 cartridges in, so it's probably going to be the 3DS thing where the new Switch has like a notch in it. So it's the exact same cartridge, but you can't put it in an old Switch.
Yes.
But
I think so too.
This was a relief for me because I think that would have been a huge, enormous shot in the foot. That would have been very bad if that happened. So I'm glad that they actually made this move. And they've known for probably years, but we know now. We finally know. And we got it on a night where we really needed a little bit of good news.
Yes. I'm sorry.
You should
I
be.
was yawning. I can't believe that the last time we recorded the podcast was Monday, November 4th.
Yeah, it came out on a very interesting day.
It just feels like we've lived so many lifetimes since then. Much like Private Division is turning the page into a new life to an unknown buyer since 2K sold them off. We don't know who bought them, which is interesting. Interesting that it's unknown. Take-Two is still supporting No Rest for the Wicked, which is an RPG in early access still from the studio or from Moon Studios.
They made Ori.
Yes.
That was a bad paragraph.
Kind of confusing. But yeah, so Private Division is still supposedly working on this Lord of the Rings game, which was delayed, and a untitled action-adventure game.
This is annoying because they just shut down Roll7 and Intercept pretty recently. And it's like, if you were about to sell them off, why don't you just sell them off and let the next, see if the next team can make some use out of them? Just feels like a waste. I'm also just tired of all this trading hands crap.
Yeah, it's very exhausting. It's just unless it's really big, it's really hard to keep track of all the different here's who's going where, here's what's happening now, Yeah.
Well, good news.
Very
you have
confusing.
Something else to keep track of. Sony, PlayStation, might be buying Kadokawa, which you might be like, what's that? And that's fair, because Kadokawa is more of an investment firm. But one of the things that they own, FromSoft, Dark Souls creators, FromSoft. So that means that From Software might be a PlayStation studio in the near future.
This would not surprise me if this ended up happening, and I think that this was something that could have been telegraphed by the presence of Elden Ring. Sorry, my cat is being very distracting right now.
She's literally just posing.
She's sitting on chairs. She's crawling around. She's not loafing, but she's crouching.
Do you think she's upset about this news?
I think she's the owner of Sony. All of it. She's the CEO, president.
Can you tell her not to do this then? I think it's bad in the sense maybe if they bought FromSoft, things would just keep going as usual. But FromSoft has a pretty good output, and PlayStation studios are notorious for having bad output. And I would worry that with this acquisition, they might, try to tighten the reins or something. Because FromSoft is not graphics focused. They're focused on creating incredible games. So their games are kind of ugly graphically. They just focus on art style and gameplay. And they don't spend 1 billion years polishing every bit of graphics. And you know what happens is they create incredible games that are still beautiful and that everybody loves and are critically acclaimed across the board. And I'd be worried that if PlayStation got their hand on it, they'd be like, actually, we want these games to look as good as Horizon.
Yeah, I think, I don't think this is necessarily the worst news of all time. I think that if the people over at Sony had their finger on the pulse, they would understand that this could be done in a way where where the oversight is very minimal. Do I think that is what's going to happen? No, because I don't think the people making decisions at Sony make the best decisions for their games. But I also, to your point, I do think that while I agree that the Dark Souls games, I don't know. I think it's hard to say, I think Elden Ring, because it was made so well, a lot of the little nitpicky things tend to get whatever. Where am I going with this?
I don't know. Are you
I
responding
think
to me
what
saying the graphics are bad?
I think what's happening is that, like, even when it's done really well, it's still following this sort of like industry trend. Like Elden Ring is leagues better looking than, like graphically, than Dark Souls
Oh, yeah.
3, which was the last entry, or I guess Sekiro was the last entry. But so I don't necessarily think that FromSoft is beholden to this idea that like, oh, everything's just going to be stylized and we're not going to be looking to make a graphically impressive game. Because I think if you look at Elden Ring in the context of the other games that FromSoft has put out, it is very graphically impressive. And I would argue that it is graphically impressive regardless of any of the games that came out in 2022. But I do think that all of that being said, I don't know. I think that this is one of those things that could definitely go either way. And like I said, I don't think the people making decisions at Sony are necessarily making the best decisions. So I can't imagine that this would be a great move for FromSoft's like capabilities, like what it means for the future of the studio, what plans that they have. I would be interested to know what the next step is for them, what they are planning to make next. I know that's kind of what everybody's thinking about, but regardless, I am ambivalent about this. I am of two minds about this news.
I think if they just let them continue their flow and use it as a profit generator, that's fine. And maybe the best case scenario is that happens and Bloodborne returns in some fashion, you know? But I think desiring this acquisition for the sake of Bloodborne returning is a little bit misguided because there's so many possible negatives, and Bloodborne 2 is not worth that.
I don't even think that they could do Bloodborne 2. I think it would be cool, but I just don't feel that that is necessarily something that they even want to focus on, because if it was, why wouldn't they do it already? I do see like the bones for this relationship are already set. Now that you mentioned Bloodborne, of course, Bloodborne was a PlayStation 4 exclusive, which is wild. But yeah, I don't know. I'm of two minds. I think, it could be neutral or it could be bad. Yeah. And I tend to lean towards the bad with the way that Sony handles literally anything. So
I don't think there's any world where this improves FromSoft. That's my thing.
I agree, but I think FromSoft was already on a path of not improving, but was already on a path of becoming more mainstream and more notable. I mean, if you really think about it, Dark Souls was a more niche series. It's not necessarily a normie series, not to use that word seriously, but it's not a series that like your cousin's talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the cousin barometer. But Elden Ring is so popular, and it was such a big deal, and it was like, here's George R. R. Martin, he's also contributing. That's a cousin game. That's a game that your cousin might bring up. So I think they were already headed towards that path. I think what's interesting about FromSoft is that they have these sort of like legacy titles, like Armored Core. That was interesting that they were just like, we're going to make another Armored Core game. No big deal. It's just what's happening. And it came out after Elden Ring, and nobody really talked about it that much because it wasn't Dark Souls 4 or Elden Ring 2 or Bloodborne 2 or Sekiro 2. I think that they are already on a path towards mainstream. Mm-hmm. And I think that whatever happens next will really show the future of the studio.
Yeah. I mean, we probably will know in the relatively near future.
Yeah.
It would be cool
to see whatever they're working on next.
I wouldn't be surprised if we found out like next, like a 1 year from now, and it came out 6 months after that or something.
Yeah.
So
I think that there is a huge desire for their games right now, and I think that they probably understand that.
Yeah.
And the studio has a very strong work ethic and a very strong commitment to its titles, so
yeah.
I agree. You know who also has a strong commitment to nope, I don't have it.
Go ahead.
I don't know.
Try.
I don't know how to transition, you guys. Nobody ever taught me how to do that.
Oh, that explains a lot.
Do you know who Macaulay Culkin is? He's like, ah, I'm home alone. Ah, and he screams. Can I say something funny that our recording apparatus just did? So we record using Google Meets. Let me lift the curtain a little bit here for you. When I screamed, I got a little pop-up from Google that was like, we're reducing the noise for you.
Google literally
Excuse
said,
me?
shut up.
Like,
It did.
that was not the intent of my behavior.
It basically censored you because I couldn't hear you.
Wow. I'm kind of offended. Well, you know what? It'll come through on the recording, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, and everybody got to hear me sing the Home Alone theme song very beautifully.
That is so true. So season 2 of Fallout they just started filming, like maybe literally 2 weeks ago. And Macaulay Culkin has joined the cast, which is interesting. I haven't seen Macaulay Culkin in anything since like Home Alone.
I didn't know if he
I've
acted.
seen Kieran Culkin in a lot of things, including the best show of all time, or one of the best shows of all time, which is Succession, which everybody should watch. That is my plug for this episode. Please go watch Succession. If you do one thing with your weekend, it should be that. Thank you.
Okay.
And then you can watch Fallout, and then you can be ready for season 2, which I actually think is coming sooner than we think. If they're already filming, I bet they'll be done filming in like a month.
Yeah, it'll probably come out like Christmas next year.
I think it's coming out next summer.
I just think there's a lot of CG.
I think there's a high demand for this show.
When did the first season
And
come
I think
out? August, right?
April.
April?
No, it was April 2024.
Okay, maybe that could make sense then. But I feel like it might be a little later.
I think it's going to be like June or July.
Yeah.
It'll be a summer show for Prime.
If you're
I think
right.
they're trying to they're trying to get the wheels hitting the ground with this one because of the demand and the cliffhanger. And everyone is in a frenzy. Everyone being me, myself, and I, in a frenzy for Walton Goggins. We are expanding the Goggins verse.
I mean, you're going to get lots of Goggins next year. He's in White Lotus as well.
I know, and he...
What?
Never mind.
What?
Nothing. You don't want to know what I was about to say.
I do. I really do.
No.
Was he?
Are there any other video game adaptation news stories that you might want to share with us, Andrew?
Before that, I was just going to say it'd be crazy if it came out next summer just to see Last of Us and Fallout going head to head. That'd be cool.
I think...
I
think that would...
I'd
Yeah,
be more
I guess
excited
that's a
about
good
Fallout,
point.
which is funny.
I didn't think about Last of Us.
That's coming out next year.
Did you see the trailer for it?
Yeah, I remember we talked about it because I was like, I got nothing to say because it just made me be like, yep, that's Last of Us 2.
That's right. We did talk about it.
I'm going to watch it, but...
Yeah, I agree with your sentiment. I am more excited for Fallout Season 2 as well.
Way more for me. Next year's packed full of video game adaptations I care about. Castlevania Nocturne, Devil May Cry. Well, I guess Fallout does not have a release date for next year, we should clarify. So there is a chance that we are wrong and it's 2026. That is a possibility. I don't think it's likely.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to
think
stand
it'll
by.
be
I think it'll be like a fall show. Like, I think it'll come out in like between September and November. That's my opinion.
Well, now that you've said that about The Last of Us, I almost want to agree. Because I'm trying to think, like, what has HBO done historically? HBO sort of leads the pack. So if we're so House of the Dragon came out this year. It was early. It was this summer. And that's right. Rings of Power, which is Amazon's high fantasy adaptation, came out in like late summer, fall. So maybe Amazon takes cues from HBO. So maybe it will be a fall show. I'm seeing the pieces are falling into place for me.
I also think that the only show that because like shows don't compete with each other anymore, you know? I feel like they don't choose release dates based on competing with other shows. However, I think Fallout and Last of Us are one of the current, because they are the front runners of video game adaptations now.
Yes, and I don't think they want to muddy the waters with being like, did I watch Fallout last week or Last of Us? You know, I don't think...
And they're drastically different, but they are both post-apocalypse shows that are the biggest video game adaptations on television.
And I don't think we should trust the common consumer at all. Period. That's the entire statement. So
Well, I should go back to what you were trying to get me to say. Lara Croft is a character from Tomb Raider, and they're making an Amazon show.
that's true.
Created
That is so true.
created by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I almost called her Phoebe Waller-Bridgerton. That's not a bit.
It's interesting because I like Phoebe Bridgers is a musical artist, and then there's Phoebe Waller-Bridge. So I
think that's
I get
why.
them confused in my head.
Well, Phoebe
And I've watched
Waller-Bridge
Bridgerton.
is making a Tomb Raider show. We knew about this. But Sophie Turner from Game of Thrones and probably other things that other people would know that I'm not aware of, is playing Lara Croft. Okay. She doesn't really look like Lara Croft to me, but dye her hair brown and she's probably going to look like that.
All you have to do to make a woman look like Lara Croft is give her brown hair and a ponytail and put some dirt on her.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. They did it with Angelina Jolie. They did it with Alicia Vikander. Alicia. And now they can do it with Sophie Turner. My question is, I have so many thoughts about this show. I think Phoebe Waller-Bridge is an insanely talented writer. She wrote Fleabag, which is like one of my favorite shows of all time. Another Amazon hit. I don't know how her writing will translate to a Tomb Raider show.
Didn't she write the new Indiana Jones as well? Or was she just in it?
She was in it. I don't think she wrote for it.
Okay. I thought maybe she just went Hollywood.
I don't really know what's going on with her like agent. So she did, you know the show Killing Eve? Have you ever heard that show?
Yeah, the one with Sandra Oh.
Yes, she wrote for that show. And then she dipped at the end. She wrote Fleabag, as we know, like I said. Incredible show. She was in Star Wars Rogue One. She was the voice of a droid.
Oh.
And then she was supposed to be in the new Mr. and Mrs. Smith show with Childish Gambino, Donald Glover. She dropped out of the project. And now she's writing the Tomb Raider show. Her journey and her path are so interesting to me.
They're very chaotic.
They are chaotic. I think Sophie Turner is a fine actress. I don't think that she's like the best actress of all time. I actually think she suffered the curse a little bit of like being better as a child actor rather than when she got older. Like, this is how I feel about some of the kids from Stranger Things, is they were better actors when they were little. And then they got like self-conscious as they got older and their acting maybe wasn't as strong. And I feel like this kind of happened with Sophie Turner too. But like I said, all you really have to do to be Lara Croft is have brown hair, put it in a ponytail, and get some dirt on you. Anybody can be Lara Croft. You also just have to have triangular boobs.
Yeah, I think they should do that. I think they should put in like cardboard to make it as triangular as possible.
This is just odd to me too, because didn't that Tomb Raider animated series also just come out?
And it's not Amazon. It's Netflix. It's weird
And
for it to be coming out in different. And the movie just came out. Well,
and the movie with Walton Goggins.
Walton
by
Goggins
the way,
was in the Tomb Raider show movie.
He was in the Alicia Vikander one, which came out maybe like 6 years ago.
That was 6 years ago.
And he was the villain. And he had a beard.
Oh my god.
Anyway, we don't have to get into that.
He's not a gamer.
I'm not a gamer. I'm part of the Goggins verse. You know who'd be okay? So I have a really inspired. Did you have anything else to add to say?
Nah, we'll see what this looks like probably next year.
Yeah. So I think an incredibly inspired casting choice for the new Mass Effect TV series.
For the new what?
From Amazon. Mass Effect TV series coming from Amazon. You know who I think would be really inspired as Commander Shepard?
Walton Goggins.
No. I mean, yes, that was the joke. That was the joke to make the transition. I actually don't want Commander Shepard in this show at all. But, yeah, they're making a new Mass Effect TV series. I do feel that this was This has been telegraphed for a really long time. We had that weird thing like 3 years ago, where Henry Cavill like posted a random screenshot from a trailer, and it was picture from his trailer that he was in, like the location. and it was like a Mass Effect script, and everybody's like, what is this? So people were like, oh my gosh, they're making a Mass Effect TV series and Henry Cavill's going to be in it, which, by the way, I would hate that. I would absolutely detest that. I don't want that man in that show. I don't want any normal human man in Mass Effect. I need to see alien men.
Well, what if he's playing an alien?
I need to see beautiful women. What?
What if he's playing an alien?
Well, then we can make that work. I actually don't want to see his face. I don't really like Henry Cavill. I hate to be this person. I don't want to spread negativity. So you know what? Let me just shut my mouth. Anyway, the point is that they're making this series is going to be from Amazon, and you know who's writing it? Everybody get really excited because it's. Remember when I was like, I don't like to spread negativity.
Yeah.
The guy who wrote Fast and Furious 9.
9? That's the best one.
Right.
There's probably somebody who has that opinion.
I mean, you know. Sure. Sure. And you know what? Sure. And you know what else? Is that the other people working on it have also worked on, let me tell you some video game adaptations that they've also worked on.
Yeah.
Borderlands.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Uncharted. Right. Okay. Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, wait, really?
Yes.
Ghost in the Shell. I have like trauma attached to that movie.
Yes. Yeah. So, you know, I don't want to be a hater. I want to be a lover. I want to be not a fighter. But this makes me feel ill.
It's not a good sign.
I think that a Mass Effect show could be very successful. It's a very interesting universe. And that's the thing, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, with BioWare games, is that they build up these really interesting universes that have a lot of wiggle room that you can do a lot of things in. Do I think that's what's going to happen here? No. I think that what's going to happen here is that they're going to try and recreate the main trilogy story with Commander Shepard, and it's going to be just...
They should do what Fallout did. Do like a weird new story in that same universe and have like callbacks and stuff, but mostly make it its own thing.
I agree, but will they do that?
Maybe. It's Amazon.
I don't trust the writers that they've hired for this project.
Yeah, that's fair.
To do that.
I'm going to maintain
especially
optimism.
The writers of Ghost in the Shell.
Okay, never mind.
Can you be serious? I want to be optimistic too, and it's hard to really say anything like super concrete because we literally don't know anything beyond that it's getting made. But it's a little bit difficult for me. I will only accept this show if Vin Diesel is in it in a white tank top talking about family.
Vin Diesel's going to play Garrus.
That would be crazy. Okay. I was actually just thinking about Garrus today. It's funny that you bring him up.
You think about him every day.
Every day.
What are you talking about? You're thinking about him every day.
Okay. Listen. I was particularly thinking about him today because I am now hankering for a Mass Effect replay. But I've completely derailed my train of thought.
Vin Diesel's going to play Garrus.
Oh, right. I don't think I ever want to see Garrus portrayed as by anybody other than Brandon Keener, who did his original voice. I never, ever want to see anyone try and replicate Garrus in any way, shape, or form.
See, but they can do that.
Would they? No.
But he's not
You're right.
human.
Right, but they'd probably get some celebrity who doesn't know anything about anything and isn't Walton Goggins, and they'd get him in a freaking suit, and it would just not be the same.
I'm not a gamer.
I'm not a gamer.
What if Walton Goggins played Garrus?
Okay, some concessions could be made for the Gogginator. For the Gogsmeister.
Goggus Vicarian.
That's his, Goggus is his, like, scientific name. Waltanus Goggus.
Oh.
Like, you know how we're Homo sapiens?
Yeah.
That would be him.
Thank you for explaining Homo sapiens to me.
Well, for the audience, you know.
Oh. I think our audience knows what Homo sapiens means.
I just was thinking me saying scientific name maybe didn't make that much. Like, I often think that I completely understand my train of thought in the words that I'm saying.
No,
And then sometimes I listen back to the episodes and I'm like, I'm lost in the sauce.
I think it was a good joke.
Thank you.
Have I ever explained? This is like a little bit. You did it behind the curtains. I'll do it behind the curtains. There's two things that happen when I listen back to these episodes, because I usually listen on like release day or something, just so I can make sure we didn't, make any mistakes or anything. But sometimes I can't listen on release day, and I listen like a few days late, and it's like no longer fresh in my mind. And I'm listening to it, and you say something, and either I say almost the exact same thing, like I want to respond, and I'm like, oh my God, human brains are wired so specifically that we're like wired to say certain things. Or when you say something funny and I laugh, and the laugh sounds the same, which means like certain funny triggers make me laugh the same way every time. That's frightening, isn't it?
We're just creatures of habit.
It's just freaky that this podcast has dove into my psyche that way.
Yeah.
So, speaking of diving into psyche, mobile games are my favorite thing. Kelly knows it. I know it. Walton Goggins knows it. Monster Hunter.
I've got your password. Oh, sorry.
What?
I was going to say, I've got your username and password for your Google Play and your Apple Play and your Samsung Play store. And I know just how hard you go with these mobile games, okay?
See, I cut you off, so all you said was, I have your password.
You should be scared.
I'm scared every day, Kelly. But Monster Hunter Outlanders was announced. This is a new mobile game, and it's Monster Hunter. This is not like Monster Hunter...
Wilds?
No.
World?
No.
Hunt?
Yeah. Is that the mobile one?
No.
What's the one where you walk around and you're like, it's Pokemon Go?
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, this is not that. This is an actual Monster Hunter game, but it's free to play. It's made by NetEase, is working on it, who, is a Chinese conglomerate who loves to make mobile games that make a lot of money. This is weird. It's almost weird to me that they announced this right before the new one comes out. But they are probably very separate markets, right?
I would imagine that they're banking on the hype for the new one. What is the new one called?
Wilds. You had it, but
Wilds.
You had it right.
Okay.
I just was talking about something else.
Okay. I think that they're probably banking on the marketing hype for Wilds, because I think that this is the most that a Monster Hunter game has been marketed, particularly in the West, in a really long time. I think that it being like the one more thing at, what was that, Summer Games Fest?
Game Awards last year.
Game Awards. I think that is significant. I also think that, I think that they're just going to, it's kind of like when Animal Crossing came out and they had Pocket Camp at the same time. I feel like they're just sort of using the IP for
but those were like years
purposes.
apart.
Were they?
Pocket Camp started in 2016. Started before the Switch was out.
Well, let's use a different example then. Pocket Camp was using the same hype around Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
There we go. See?
But Monster Hunter used the hype around Pokemon Go as well when they did their own little mobile game that was Pokemon Go. I mean, it was made by Niantic, so it was very similar. But
I feel like Monster Hunter fans are actually quite diehard. So I do think that there will be some overlap with player base and market, because especially if it's free, I think they're probably banking on people being like, I love Monster Hunter! Like...
It's also extremely obvious how they're going to make money, because you don't have custom characters in this one. You buy them.
Oh, interesting.
So they're going to make money off this. They're going to make a lot of money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then we'll get the next... Oh, I guess that is NetEase. Never mind. Well, never mind. Forget I said anything.
I forgot already. I don't usually listen to you.
Oh. Hey.
Hi.
You know what mobile game you could play maybe eventually? Final Fantasy 14. Are you shocked? Are you surprised? because it's coming.
I'm a little surprised. I'm gonna be honest.
I'm a little surprised that it took this long to come to mobile. I thought it would be, what's the word I'm looking for? I thought it would take longer. I mean, I thought it would not have taken so long. Sorry. So the website design of this announcement is very beautiful, and I'm actually quite distracted.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that they did their job so well.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense. It's like, I'm not entirely clear. It seems like it's like a separate thing. Like, it's not like you just log into Final Fantasy 14 on your phone.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like Dead by Daylight mobile is a different game than Dead by Daylight on PC and console.
Does it like share?
Those share servers don't. Mobile does not.
I will give credit. This website is incredible. You're right. I mean, it makes sense. It's an online MMO, but
yeah, I can't determine if this MMO platform will like share servers. I mean, I assume it's all going to be mobile. Like the mobile servers will be shared, but it would be cool if it was like everybody all the time. But I would imagine, I mean, if you really think about 14, it came out so long ago and it has a ton of updates and stuff, but like performance and graphically, the game could certainly the game could run on a modern mobile device.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's made to run on garbage computers.
So it could potentially share servers like that.
I hope if it's like separate that it at least has like shared progress and shared like skins and stuff, so people don't have to just completely buy separate stuff. But
yeah, I think what really works to Final Fantasy XIV's benefit is that it's free for so long. I think it's like free up to level 60. So you can really milk that cow until you have to start paying.
I'm sure this will be. That's probably where the difference is. This is probably going to be free to play and then like have microtransactions. Like most mobile games.
Yeah.
So, it's not the only Final Fantasy news bit we got this week. We finally got confirmation that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is not getting DLC. I think we all kind of sensed that this was probable, because Square keeps talking about how focused they are on the final entry in the trilogy. I think this is a little bit of a relief because I want them to just focus on that trilogy, and they spent so long working on the last DLC. In the last game, they spent so long working on the DLC, and like I liked it, but I think if it shaved 6 months off of the Rebirth time as far as development, that would have been better. But it's my understanding that they use that to like learn the new architecture of the PS5 and stuff, that original DLC. So this is probably, they don't need that. They know how to work with the PS5, so they're ready to go. I'm hopeful. I think this is good news, even if it's a little unexpected to some.
Yeah. I think DLC is kind of in a weird spot for me personally. Like, if it's a game that I really enjoy, I do enjoy when obviously it's great when you get more content for that game, when you get extra whatever for the game. But the other part of me is like, if I've already paid so much for this game, I don't really want to pay more. You know, I think that the like enhanced focus on part 3 is, in this specific case for this game, the enhanced focus on part 3 is a very good thing. So I agree with you there.
And we'll probably know about that hopefully this decade.
Yeah.
I bet it'll come out I feel like holiday 2027 wouldn't be crazy.
2027?
Yeah, because it came out in February of 2024, so that gives all of 24, all of 25.
I think it'll be 26.
I
think it'll be fall 26.
I don't have that optimism. I feel like 4 years is probably perfect for development. And I know it could be less, because I mean, there were only 4 years between, I guess there were 4 years between 1 and 2. And this should be like, even less time. You're probably right. Yeah. It's probably going to be maybe early 2026 or 7, sorry, is like the earliest it would be. So a full 3-year gap. Nah, I don't know. Well, it's silly. It's going to be relatively soon. Time moves so quickly. It'll
Time is a flat circle.
It'll be before the next election. I'll promise that. Sorry, that's a terrifying concept, isn't it?
That was crazy. You can't be bringing that up with me. You know, so 2016 was also an election year. And you know what game came out of beta in 2016? Was Overwatch. And Overwatch in 2016 had 6v6. It was everybody's characters were different, right? They're very different now with Overwatch 2. Here's something fun and exciting that Blizzard did. They created Overwatch 2 Classic mode, which is basically you go back, you play the 6v6, you play the characters as they were on launch, and it's a fun time for everybody. This is in the game now. I think it came out like Tuesday or a week ago. I can't remember. I haven't played Overwatch in a while, so I actually played for the first time today. So, and I saw it there and I was like, what is this? Whoa! Actually, I knew what it was, but I didn't play it. So this is, I'm great. I'm doing a great job at reporting this story. Anyway, let me back up a little bit for more context. For those who don't know, Overwatch 2 is very different. The game has been through a lot of iterations. This is the 2.0 version of Overwatch, basically. So now, instead of it being a 6v6 game, it's 5v5. So it used to be 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 support. Now it's 1 tank, 2 DPS, 2 support. So the meta has shifted a lot. The tanks all had to be retweaked to be solo. And there's been a lot of debate on whether or not this was a smart thing to do, whether this made sense for the game, whether this was fun. I think it put a lot of pressure on people who play tank because it used to be you could have your main tank and then your off tank. It was like the whole meta thing. So now that they've brought back Classic Overwatch as a separate mode, it's back to 2 tanks, and maybe the developers will sort of take and pull from that people are having fun with that again, and maybe they'll start to implement it in a mode that is a little bit more permanent. But it's hard to say. And I have not played it.
I assume this is partially inspired by Fortnite doing its like OG mode thing where they're like bringing back the original modes and stuff, or original maps and stuff.
Yeah. I also think that while I agree with that, I think that also a big part of it was the players consistently asking for 6v6 back. That has been a touch point for every single Overwatch conversation since Overwatch 2 came out. Since before, when they announced that Overwatch 2 was only going to be 5v5. Because it is such a radical shift in gameplay. Like I said, there were people, like even esports, like Overwatch League players, which like rest in peace Overwatch League, but they would have main tank and off tank, and that's what they did. Like if you were an off tank, you wouldn't play main tank. Now, in 5v5, you don't really have a choice. There's only 1 tank. You can only do what you can do. So there has been very vocal parts of the player base that have wanted 6v6 back for very long, for the 2 years that the game has been out. So, or 3. Oh my God. Was it 21 or 20? I think it was 22.
Overwatch 2?
It was 22. Right?
Let's find out.
I'm 92% positive it was 22. But time doesn't exist, so it might have been 21.
23. August of 23, so late 23.
Wait.
It had early access beginning in October of 22.
Okay.
Okay, that was the second part of it. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, that's okay. I was going to say, I swear I have been playing this game for more than a year. Yeah. It has definitely been 2 years, but okay. Anyway, that's that.
With the most due respect, I don't care. Overwatch news just does so little for me now because I'm like, this game feels like it's in it's its own bubble, so much so now.
It's very interesting because it's like, it was such a big thing back when it came out in 2016. It won Game of the Year in 2016, which was wild.
crazy now.
But you're right, it has become so insulated. The esports scene is a lot smaller than it used to be. Like I said, Overwatch League used to be a thing. Now it's just Overwatch World Cup and the collegiate stuff. So it has become a lot more isolated and its own thing for sure. I just think that it's interesting that it has changed so much, and still it just pulls back to its roots, and everybody's like, yippee! It's like, you probably didn't have to change as much as you thought you did. But c'est la vie.
Kelly?
Yes.
Game Awards 2024.
That's right.
We'll be doing that in 2 episodes. We'll be
copyright.
Okay. I mean, it is in 3 weeks. It's less than 3 weeks from now. It's 3 weeks from yesterday.
Oh man.
So we're gonna do 1 episode in a week and a half, and then after that we'll be reporting on the Game Awards. Isn't that terrifying?
Oh man.
Well, Kelly, the categories have had their nominees announced. Do you want to have a fun little speed round? Ba-ba-bow, ba-bow,
Yes,
ba-bow.
let's.
Okay, and let's. How about we just say what we think we're gonna win?
What we gonna think are gonna win. I could do that.
All right, let's do backwards. So we're gonna start with
Oh
most
my god,
anticipated
I gotta
game.
go. Oh my god, I gotta go all the way to the end.
I was gonna go backwards. I could just read them.
Wait,
to you
mine starts at best esports team. Are we skipping
I was
those?
skipping the
okay.
esports
Most
stuff, if
anticipated
that's
game.
okay.
You're right. Okay, let's go.
Most anticipated game is Death Stranding 2, Ghost of Yotei, GTA 6, Metroid Prime 4, Monster Hunter Wilds. It's GTA 6,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like that's not. We don't even need that one.
Yeah.
Like other years, it's like, oh, maybe it's no, it's GTA 6. Of course, it's GTA 6.
Yeah.
Best adaptation: Arcane, Fallout, Knuckles, Like a Dragon, Yakuza, Tomb Raider.
I think it's going to go to Fallout because I think that Jeff is going to want human actors up on the stage. But I think I think
agree-
Arcane, we will get some weird little like Imagine Dragons moment for Arcane as per usual.
I'll talk about Arcane in a minute, but let's just say, whoa. That's all I'll say.
Whoa.
Okay. I love it. We'll talk about it in a minute.
Got it.
Best multiplayer: Call of Duty, Helldivers, Mario Party, Tekken, Warhammer. It's Helldivers.
Yeah.
There's so much hype around it. If you disagree, tell me. But I'm just being kind of quick.
I think
We
you're
got lots
right.
of categories.
I mean, I think that Space Marine also has a chance, but
And the fact that it's not fan voted makes me think. I'm gonna skip sports.
wow, he doesn't care about sports, you guys.
Sim Strategy, Age of Mythology Retold, Frostpunk 2, Kunitsugami, Manor Lords, Unicorn Overlord.
I think it's gonna be Frostpunk.
I do too, but I hope Unicorn Overlord wins it. I think that'd be cool.
Mm.
I think it'd be cool if Vanillaware, because Vanillaware is such like a small little go-getter. It'd be cool. Best Family: Astrobot, Princess Peach, Mario Party, Legend of Zelda, and Plucky Squire. I think Astrobot.
Yeah, I think Astrobot's definitely gonna win this.
Astrobot's in running for Game of the Year, so I think it's, A fighting game: Dragon Ball, Sparking Zero. Wow, that was rough. Grand Blue, Fantasy vs. Rising, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, Multiversus, Tekken 8.
I think it's gonna be Tekken.
I think Tekken deserves it, but I think Dragon Ball has a good chance.
Mm.
Can you read the next couple categories? Because my brain is.
Yes.
You heard me read that one.
Yes. Best RPG, we have Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Air Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and Metaphor Refantasio. I think Metaphor is going to win this one.
I think Metaphor as well. I think Elden Ring does not belong here. But that's let's have that discussion on Game of the Year. Okay.
Okay. Next category is Best Action Adventure, and we have Astrobot, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Silent Hill 2, Star Wars Outlaws, and The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. I think this is gonna go to Zelda, actually.
I was gonna say Astrobot, but that I want Silent Hill to get it because I think Silent Hill deserves a nod. But again,
I think
conspiratorially, you and me and Cameron were talking about it. I have a full conspiracy that there's a no Konami clause on a lot of things.
I just think Silent Hill 2 does not, in any way, shape, or form, belong in this category. But that's fine.
I mean, action and adventure.
It's an adventure.
The thing about
certainly.
there's action. I don't know what else you'd call it though. As far as horror,
I
obviously.
think
but
you could
can't
put it
have
in
horror.
Game of the Year. But anyway, we'll get into that.
Let's get that. Let's save that. Yeah. Let's move along.
Best action game. We got Black Myth Wukong, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. I think it's going to go to Black Myth Wukong.
While I agree with you, I wouldn't be shocked by a Stellar Blade win, because I feel like there is some call, like it doesn't belong in Game of the Year discussions, and people who say it does. What is going on with me? People who says it do. Oh my god. Okay, I'm done. Let's talk about the next category.
Do we want? This is VR.
Yeah, just let's skip VR.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't.
Best. Do you want me to do mobile game?
Yeah, let's skip that.
Best debut indie game: Animal Well, Balatro, Manor Lords, Pacific Drive, and Plucky Squire. I personally think Balatro is going to win this.
When a game is in Game of the Year category and the other ones aren't, it's like,
yeah.
I feel like Animal Well would be kind of like a nice little pat on the back of some, certain. It could be like an internet thing, but I think Balatro.
It could be like a Big Chungus Wholesome moment, but it won't be.
Yeah, I don't think it will.
I think Balatro's kind of Big Chungus Wholesome in its own way.
It's in its own way, but there's just one person involved, so
yeah,
it's kind of like Micro Chungus.
Micro Chungus. Can you hear my cat?
Animal Well was also made by one guy. Yeah,
she
hates Micro Chungus.
Oh, best indie game. This is not best debut indie game, but it's best indie game. Actually, yeah. I'm going to change my answer now because I think it's going to go to this one. I think debut is going to go to Animal Well. And I think best independent game is going to go to Balatro, which is in this category along with Animal Well, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Neva, and UFO 50. I think best indie is definitely going to go to Balatro, and I think best debut indie is going to go to Animal Well. That's my thought on that.
I think Balatro's going to take both.
Whoa!
That's my opinion.
Well,
that's just my opinion.
That's my opinion.
That's my opinion.
A nice little Housewives crossover here on Talking Game. The intersection of my two interests, which is Real Housewives and video games. So the next category is Best Community Support, and the nominees are Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 14. I know how to read Roman numerals. Fortnite, Helldivers 2, and No Man's Sky. I think this one's kind of tricky because I think these games all have pretty good community support. I actually think it's going to go to Helldivers.
Yeah, I don't think Baldur's Gate should be here. I think patches are great. I don't think that counts. It's the same thing as Cyberpunk getting it last year. That's not.
My only argument is that I think Baldur's Gate 3 has good community support in the form of its mods, but those aren't made by the developers. Those are made by the players.
That's what I mean.
So it's kind of like, that is the community, but is it? I don't know. They work within the framework of what the developers created for them, the mod manager, the mod program on console too, which I think is great. Does that make them, is that community support? I don't really know. But I do think Helldivers 2 is going to win.
Yeah, I'm relieved that it's not in the next category at least.
Yes. Best ongoing, which is, ongoing content development. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I feel like just calling it best ongoing is kind of stupid. And the nominees are Destiny 2, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Helldivers 2. I don't really know, but I feel like Final Fantasy 14 always wins these awards. I think that like Fortnite would not be a bad winner.
I think Fortnite's had a big year, with all of like the Rocket League stuff and all of that kind of like Lego Fortnite.
Yeah, and I think exactly, and like the concerts and
also Helldivers 2 is this. I don't think ongoing should be. It came out this year. I don't think it should give it all the credit in this first year.
Yeah,
for this category at least.
Yeah, I agree. The next category is Games for Impact, which is basically the like social awareness,
the liberal
award.
Category,
the woke awards. No, I'm sorry. I think this is a great category.
Where's Stellar Blade?
Oh my god. Let's not even go there.
Listen, there's certain impacts happening every time she takes a step. That's for
That's
sure.
crazy. Okay, here are the serious nominees for the serious category. Closer the distance. Come on, man. Closer the distance. Indica, Neva, Life is Strange, Double Exposure, Senua Saga, and Tales of Kenzira Zao. I'm feeling very sad about the last one, Tales of Kenzira, because he had to shut down the studio.
Yeah, and it got a whole thing last year at the Game Awards too.
So I actually do think that one might win just because.
Yeah, but I feel almost Jeff might not want to highlight somebody that happened to.
I know Jeff is very much nothing's wrong. Nothing's ever wrong in video games.
He might mention the layoffs and stuff this year, but I feel
he might.
I'm gonna say I think it's Neva, because Neva's in other categories.
Yeah.
So I think it has a little bit more recognition, and I kind of want. I think I might try to play Neva before. I was waiting to see if it was on Black Friday sale, and it's not, so I might just pick it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Bite the bullet.
The next category is innovation and accessibility. Let me tell you the nominees: Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Diablo 4, Dragon Age: The Veilguard, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, and Star Wars Outlaws. Not really sure what was going on here in this category. It felt like they were like, is there a colorblind mode? Put it in the category.
Well, the only time this actually does anything is when it's a PlayStation Studios games, because they go nuts.
Right. Which I'm not trying to be a hater, and I'm not trying to be negative. I think this is cool that they have a whole category about accessibility, and I think it's important to make this notable so more studios will do it. But it's also this collection of games feels very just whatever. Oh yeah, put Dragon Age in there.
I feel like Prince of Persia is gonna win because it has some really cool features, but
yeah, I don't even know the features, so I can't even speak to this category. I mean, I know Dragon Age's features, but that's it, because I've played Diablo 4 too. But anyway, next category is.
Do you want to trade the baton back?
Oh sure, yeah, go ahead.
Unless you really want to go.
No.
Best performance. The nominees are almost all women, which is not a bad thing, but surprising for a Jeff award. Brianna White for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as Aerith, Hannah Tell as I Don't Know Who and Life is Strange Double Exposure.
She's probably Max.
Humberly Gonzalez as I assume the protagonist of Star Wars Outlaws. Luke Roberts as James Sunderland. I was trying to remember his last name.
That's crazy.
And then Melina Jurgens as Senua in Hellblade 2.
I think it's going to go to her.
I think so as well, just because of the crazy voice acting or facial capture stuff she does. And also, this is a kind of a weird year for this category.
I think that there is someone who should have been here who was not nominated, which I'm very upset about. Yeah. But
I feel like they don't like putting in games that aren't nominated elsewhere.
Well, unless it's innovation and accessibility. I think
Yeah,
my thought too on this is that the actor that I thought should have been nominated for Dragon Age, he was not actually in the game that much. Unlike
so there wasn't
unlike these characters who are pretty much all main characters. I mean, he was very important, but he was not in the party. He was not the character you were playing as. Anyway, I think it's going to go to Melina. Just my thoughts. Maybe it's Melina.
Yeah. It might be.
I don't know.
We'll find out. We'll find out when she wins.
It's true.
Best audio design: Astrobot, Call of Duty, Final Fantasy, Senua Saga, and Silent Hill 2. Astrobot for me. There's so much ting, 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 every little step sounds different, and they use the controller so much.
I know. Part of me thinks that they're going to give it to Silent Hill 2 just because.
They should, actually.
But
my prediction stays Astrobot.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Best score: Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII, Metaphor, Silent Hill 2, Stellar Blade. I'm gonna take out Astrobot and Silent Hill 2, and honestly, three-way I can't decide between Metaphor.
You don't think
Final
Silent Hill
Fantasy
2 would win best score? I think
not with I think it's an exceptionally good score, but it's not the kind of game where you can play that music.
I think the thing about Silent Hill 2, the music in that game and the score, I think that it's very much iconic, and I think for that reason alone, they might award it. If you listen to...
That's why I feel like it shouldn't win, though. Because it's a remake.
But it never won before, when it should have won back in the day when it came out, when the Game Awards weren't really a thing.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying.
The competition this is kind of an intense category. This is like a really stiff competition where I'm genuinely like everybody's kind of on level playing field.
I also will say that I have found that a lot of games that have come out in the past couple of years have really done a great job of incorporating their score and the OST. And I think that a lot of the times, a lot more games could be nominated for this category. And I'm actually quite shocked at how they're able to narrow it down to 5.
Yeah.
Do you want me to? Oh, no, you can keep going.
I was going to say, we'll speed along because we're going to be saying a lot of the same games now. Best Art Direction, Astrobot, Black Myth, Elden Ring, Metaphor, Neva. I have a Metaphor.
Yeah.
Like the amount of art direction, like there's just so much.
Yeah.
That's like the best part of the game in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I think it could almost go to Neva, but we'll see.
Best Narrative, Final Fantasy, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Metaphor, Senua's Saga, Silent Hill 2. I could see Silent Hill 2 copping this one, but I would, and I haven't finished Metaphor, so I cannot speak to that game, to be honest.
I think the people who run this show really, really like Hellblade. So I will not be shocked if that wins, but
I hope it doesn't win because I loved Final Fantasy. I would give it to Final Fantasy 7 personally. If I was choosing it, but
yeah.
Best Game Direction, which is, you know what? I'll just say that these are the same exact nominees as Game of the Year. So Kelly, why don't you read these? These are Game of the Year and Best Game Direction, same 6 games.
Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII, and Metaphor.
Okay. What do you think is going to win Best Game Direction, and what do you think is going to win Game of the Year? I don't like that these are 2 separate categories, to be honest.
I think Astrobot is actually going to win Best Game Direction because of everything about it. I think it's concise, and I think that it utilizes the platform in a way that is innovative. But I don't know.
What do you think's going to win?
It's kind of anyone's game.
Win Game of the Year then?
I think Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is going to win Game of the Year.
No.
My thoughts are that they changed the rules.
I'm not angry at you, but...
and they announced they changed the rules 3 days before the nominees came out to basically be like, hey, if we think the DLC is expansive enough, we are going to nominate it for Game of the Year. Lo and behold, 3 days later, Shadow of the Erdtree was nominated for Game of the Year. None of these other games are DLCs. So to me, that really reads like they knew that they were going to be nominating this game, this DLC, for Game of the Year, and that they were trying to get ahead of it, which is why I think it will win, because why change the rules otherwise?
I don't like that it's here.
It's hard because I do think Shadow of the Erdtree was incredible.
Oh, yeah, it's incredibly good, but I don't think Game of the Year is a fair thing to call it.
I think that it's also maybe if this was something that if you only played Elden Ring for 2 hours and you could access this and it is a standalone thing for sure. It takes hours to get through. It's long, it's expansive, it's big, it has its own self-contained plot. But you have to play 80% of Elden Ring to even get to this DLC. You have to be almost done with the main game to get to this DLC.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's just not... It can't stand on its own like that. It just can't. So I don't think it should have been in this category at all.
I think swap it for Silent Hill 2, in my opinion.
I agree. I think Silent Hill 2 absolutely should have been nominated for Game of the Year. I actually have a lot of beef with a lot of the nominations. Not for what they are, but for what also could have been in them. But
I think Black Myth could have been swapped for a lot of things.
I think that it shocks me how hard Jeff and co ride this game. Not to be weird, but I don't...
Hey, I'm going to be full conspiracy. I think there might be, and this is real conspiracy, and I know friend of the show Cameron doesn't agree, and that's fine. but I feel like there's some money involved with that one. Because it's not going to win.
I just feel like there was so much. Summer Games Fest, Black Myth Wukong. Game Awards, Black Myth Wukong. It feels like this game has been marketed to us so hard over the past, 4 years. And even me and you were like, this is not a real game. Like, this is fake. It came out a couple months ago. Whatever.
Reviews are pretty good, but they're not on par. Like, Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII, and Metaphor, and Elden Ring, and Balatro all have, perfect review scores across the board. Black Myth has a lot of people that don't agree.
I've never played the game. I cannot speak to it.
I want to.
I just personally feel like I don't understand what's going on here. I don't think that I felt like it didn't have the impact that people are pretending that it had.
I think it did in the Chinese market, but
right,
which isn't necessarily indicative of the video game industry as a whole.
Right, and it's I don't know.
It was one of the most consecutive or simultaneously played games on Steam ever, and I think there's something to be said about that. But so is Pal World, and it's not nominated anywhere, and it shouldn't be. That doesn't make a game worth nominating for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, my opinion though. I think Elden Ring is going to win Game Direction, and I think Game of the Year is going to go to Final Fantasy. And if we recorded this yesterday or tomorrow, my answer for Game of the Year would change. Game Direction, I'm pretty set on Elden Ring, but I do think that Astrobot, Final Fantasy, and Metaphor are really constantly hot potatoing for me.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting Game Awards. Only in the sense of what actually wins. I actually find myself very drained watching the Game Awards these past couple of years because it has become so just constantly being marketed to all the time. But
we're watching it together, so we'll at least have fun.
That is true. That is so true.
Kelly, we should probably move along to the games we played because it's a list.
Yeah.
You can start because you played a ton of games, right?
No. Yes. No. I played one game. I finished Veilguard.
Woo!
Yeah. It was wild. Let me give you a little context how I finished it. So it was Thursday night, the last day of my old job. I was home and I was like, you know what? I'm not working tomorrow. Let me just have a crazy night where I drink Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar and play Dragon Age. I knew I was close to the end. I did not realize how close I was to the end. So it was 10 p.m. and I got to the point of no return and I was like, maybe I'll be done in 2 hours. Listener, I was not done in 2 hours. I was done in 5 hours. It took way longer than I was expecting. The point of no return in that game is very early. Anyway. So I finished the game sobbing at 3 a.m. I had no one to talk to about it. Except lo and behold, when I went to bed, my husband was awake. The man who lives in my house, I should say. And I was like, I need to tell you everything that just happened because I will never be the same. I just want to clarify. I feel very much the same that I felt last time I talked about this game. I think it is a very good game. I think it is right now very much mired in this culture war stuff that I don't think is ever going to let up with any game that is not, non-political. And I think that is also mired in a certain type of negativity that is really unfortunate because I feel like it is holding a lot of people back from actually playing the game and forming their own opinions. I'm trying to do this new thing in 2025 where I'm a little bit less critical of things that I haven't actually engaged with on a deep level, which is hard for me because I love to be critical. But I think, this instance particularly, I felt very much like the things that I was reading online, even in fan spaces, I was like, what are these people talking about? I do not believe that they played this game. And if they did, I don't think that they were engaging with it in good faith. that is not to say that I don't have criticisms of the game. I absolutely do. I think that they were lacking a certain touch in the writing, and it made things very safe, which is unfortunate because I think something that is interesting about the Dragon Age universe is that you can explore heavier things through the lens of this fiction. And I think that was sort of removed a little bit from this game, which was unfortunate. But I will say overall, I did not feel that it detracted from my experience to the extent where I wouldn't do it again. That is to say, I am doing it again. But anyway, so I think the last 5-6 hours of the game are really incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're very well done, very reminiscent of, everybody says this, but it's true. It's very reminiscent of Mass Effect 2, where it was really important. Your team was a very important part of the conversation. What they were doing at the end was important. And obviously they carried that influence into this game. I don't really know what's next for Dragon Age. I don't know if another Dragon Age game will get made, if I'm being totally honest with you. The studio might be done with the IP now. I will say...
Did they at least wrap up the threads that needed wrapped up, if that's the case?
They wrapped up this story, this quadrology, whatever you want to call it. This saga is over. There was a post-credit scene that hinted at something more. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if BioWare is ever going to make another Dragon Age game. Of course, I would love another Dragon Age game. I think that it's very difficult to say because Dragon Age has always been sort of the other child compared to Mass Effect. I know that they're not making any DLC for this game based on their own admission. Before the game even came out, they said, we're solely focusing on the next Mass Effect, so no DLC for Veilguard.
It's probably for the best, right?
Yeah. Like I was saying earlier, it's hard with DLC because, of course I want more. Of course I want to experience more with these characters and this story, but do I want to spend that money? No. Do I think the experience was whole? Yes. Versus Inquisition, which its best DLC was at the end. You had to pay for it, and it was necessary for setup for the next game, which was unfortunate. But anyway, all this to say, I would say my final rating's probably at a 7.7, if we can go crazy. I mean, it leans more towards 8 than a 7.
So worth the wait, but not quite everything you hoped?
Yeah. I would say that, for 10 years, I wish that they could have done more, but I think the development of this game was also a tribulation in and of itself, just based on, them having to restart not once but twice. I think that it is a miracle that the game even came out. Like I said, I would love another Dragon Age game. I think that if Mass Effect 5 does really well, which it probably will because it's a Mass Effect game, I think that if Mass Effect 5 does really well, then there could be optimism for another Dragon Age title. But if that's the end of it, then that's the end of it. And I can't be upset because the saga that I knew and waited 10 years for, 15 years, is over. And that's fine. And I'm just sort of coping with that now. And that's my life. I would say, Andrew, I wouldn't recommend it to you because I know you're not really a huge side quester. You like the main
Depends
story
on the game,
content.
but not a lot.
I would make the case that this game's side quests are really important. They are very
sometimes
important.
I feel like for a lot of games, that's what makes me interested in them. My problem is when they're better than the main story.
Yeah. I think it will be interesting to look at what people think and say about this game in a few years because I think right now it's just too hot. It's too hot. But it kind of reminds me of Cyberpunk in the sense that when Cyberpunk launched, and I think Cyberpunk's launch was a mess anyway because of all of the technical problems, but the criticisms that people had for Cyberpunk that weren't technical related on its launch felt very much like, I think you guys are being a little bit bad faith. I think
Yes.
that is currently happening with Veilguard, which is unfortunate. But I will say, technically, the game is very impressive. I had literally like one crash in like 70 hours of playtime.
That's actually really pleasant to hear for a AAA game like this.
Yes, and there's not really any bugs I haven't found. I mean, it's beautiful to look at. I think the art direction of the game is great, which is why I sort of wished that it had been nominated for art direction or score. I mean, I thought the music was awesome. I know people are not as hot on the music because it was done by... So Inquisition's music was done by a composer named Trevor Morris. And Inquisition's music is a lot more like cello and like classical instruments to give it sort of that high fantasy, like medieval score. Whereas Veilguard was composed by Hans Zimmer and Lorne Bolf. And they used a lot of like different instrumentation. They used like synthesizers. And there's like a part with guitar, like metal guitar. And people are like, this is a Dragon Age. And it's like, well, it's different. I still thought it was really good. I really enjoyed the score. And not the main theme, but there's one piece on the soundtrack that I think is really incredible. And of course, it's my favorite character's theme, Soulless. Oh, my God. Anyway, all this to say, I did cry a lot. And I am on my second playthrough now. I'm about halfway through. So, cheers.
I'm glad you're halfway through your second playthrough. Are you playing? How differently are you playing it?
So, I'm romancing a different character. I'm playing a different class. I've made a few key different choices. My first playthrough, I'll just give a little bit of context. I played an elf. She was a mage. She romanced a character named Emmerich. And she was always sort of snarky, talking her way out of situations, etc., etc. This playthrough, I'm playing a dwarf. She is a rogue and a Grey Warden, which is one of the factions, a different faction. And she's romancing a character named Davrin. And she's a little bit more straightforward. Like, she prefers, like, fisticuffs. Sorry, my cat's being crazy. She prefers fists over talking. So it's different. I am making different choices. I'm romancing a different character. The thing about Veilguard is that there are like key choices that are different and do change outcomes. So it does feel fulfilling to play again and play differently.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure we'll probably talk about it more next episode, right?
Yes. I'm actually really sad because like it's just been such a journey in this life of mine. Like I played my first Dragon Age game was actually Dragon Age 2. And I played it back in like 2011 when it came out. I was like 16 years old, not to age myself here. I was like a sophomore in high school, or I had just graduated. I had just gotten done with my freshman year. And, I played it on my little like CRTV. I plugged in the red, yellow, and white, my Xbox 360. And then I went back and I played Origins. I rented it from Blockbuster, and then I bought it from Blockbuster for $2. It was serious back then. And then it was like, oh my God, we have to wait for Dragon Age Inquisition. Dragon Age Inquisition came out when I was in college. I had just started college. My cat has some thoughts about this. And now I'm like an adult, a grown adult, and it's over. And it's like, there's a lot of feelings. There's a lot of sadness.
Yeah.
I'm sad because I don't know if we're ever going to get another Dragon Age. I don't know. And even if we do, how old am I going to be when it comes out? I'm going to be a different person again. So it's pretty crazy.
I mean, I'm kind of getting that vibe like Kingdom Hearts, that series.
Yeah.
They kind of implied that 4 is sort of closing out the Kingdom Hearts story potentially, or at least starting the end. And I'm like, so much has changed. I mean, I started that one when I was like, 9 or something?
Yeah. I mean, you grow up with this stuff.
I've been so many people in that time.
And it's like entrenched in your cerebral cortex. Like it's part of you. And then you just have to like put it down and go on about your day and like try and fill the void. Like, I don't know. It's tough because it's like I play other games and I love these other games. I love Mass Effect. I love Fallout. I love Baldur's Gate. I love these games that I played that are almost there. But something about Dragon Age just like really wiggled its way into my brain and just truly never left. It never will. Unless I get like a brain transplant.
I could do that.
Okay. Can you give me the brain of someone who is smart enough to make lots of money without doing anything?
Yeah. No, I'm on it.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sure they're willing to give up their brain.
Thank you very much. Anyway, those are just my thoughts on Dragon Age, Veilguard. Like I said, I think that it's really easy right now to get sort of entrenched in the bad faith and the negativity. And I would urge anyone who has any interest in the game to not let that deter you from trying it. And I know $60 is a lot of money, but
It's 70.
it's 60.
It's 70, isn't
It's
it?
60.
What the frick? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Not just on Steam?
Not just on Steam.
I think it might be 70 on PS5 though.
I think it's 60 because 80 is the deluxe edition.
It's 70. Sorry. 6999.
Are you sure about that?
Uh-huh.
All right.
It's on sale on Amazon right now for $63.99.
Well, I know 70 is a lot of dollars, but I do think it's worth it. I think you get a lot of enjoyment for your money. And like I said, I think it's something that if you care about the series, I think it's worth playing.
Yeah.
For sure. And like I said, I sobbed at the end. It was crazy. I had so many tissues on the floor from crying. It was actually insane. I mean, I've cried playing a video game before, but never like that.
Yeah.
It really affected me. So that's Dragon Age. Maybe I'll talk a little bit more about it next week.
Yeah. I played a couple games, Kelly.
Yeah.
My list probably looks really silly, doesn't it?
No.
I got a Castlevania collection, the classic collection on PlayStation 4, because I was interested in playing Castlevania 4 specifically. But I ended up playing Castlevania 1, Castlevania 3, Castlevania 4, and Castlevania Bloodlines, all to completion. Granted, in that collection you can use save states, so I did cheat a little bit, but those games are extremely painfully difficult. So not cheating would have made them very not fun. I spent like 4 hours on each of them essentially, so it was quite the marathon actually. I probably spent like 12 to 16 on the collection overall. But Castlevania 1 was kind of fun. Castlevania 3 polished it out a lot, even though it was a lot like the boss fights felt a lot more fun, and it was more fun in that sense, but the platforming was a lot more unfair. Thankfully the save states made it so it wasn't too frustrating, but it definitely was frustrating. Castlevania 4 is a remake of the first game on the Super Nintendo, and that is widely considered one of the best. I liked it a lot. My personal favorite Castlevania ever is Rondo of Blood. The key thing to keep in mind for these ones also is these are all the linear ones. These are level-based linear games. These are not Metroidvania. I know that sounds like they should be, but that didn't start until Symphony of the Night, and these are all pre-Symphony of the Night. And then Bloodloins. Australian for a second.
Are you okay?
And Bloodlines is the Genesis entry in the series, and I like that one a lot. I think 4 and Bloodlines were definitely my most fun ones because they were, being on the 16-bit generation, they had a lot more visual flair. They had a lot more fun movement and stuff. It was a lot less restrictive. But I think it's kind of a three-way tie between 3, 4, and Bloodlines as far as which one I like the most. If you have an interest in classic Castlevania, that collection is worth it. I got it on sale for $4. So obviously I didn't really pay much. And I did play through quite a few hours getting through these games. I had a great time though. I very highly recommend this collection if you're interested in classic Castlevania. And I felt like I owed it to the series because I have such an interest in the direction of it and the lore and the television program. So I felt like I owed it to the series to kind of give it a look at some of the classics. So, and also I wanted to fluff out the number of games I completed this year. So, because I kind of want to get to the 51. Now I'm at 46.
Oh my gosh, you're
and
so
it's
close.
November 20. Yeah, but that's a lot. 5 is a lot of games.
That's
still.
a lot for like one more month.
But I played Monument Valley. It's on Netflix now. It's a mobile game. I played this game back when it came out in 2011 or something. 2012, maybe 2013. I don't know, before 2015 for sure. And I liked it, but I don't really remember it. It had been 10 years since I played it. And since it's on Netflix, and the second game is on Netflix, and the third game is on the way right now, it's coming out in December, I decided I wanted to get on that boat. So I played Monument Valley, as well as the DLC that's included. There's it almost doubles the length of the game, because Monument Valley is pretty short. It's only 10 levels. The DLC makes it closer to 20. But I had a really good time. I really love the visual flair. The style is so nice. And the puzzles are really satisfying. It's interesting because I feel like a lot of puzzle games I play these days are extreme brain teasers. Like, they're super difficult and require a lot of thinking. Whereas this game's more just like, it's pretty clear what the solution is. It just feels nice to finish it. So if you have never played this game, if you have Netflix, give it a try. Seriously. It's a mobile game I recommend, which if you listen to this show for a long time, you know, just I don't recommend very many mobile games. So I'm excited to play. I might steal a tablet from my family. I know they have one at their house that they don't use. So I might snatch that and start using that as my little Netflix mobile game machine, because I think that'd be more fun than a phone. And then I started Monument Valley 2, but I'll talk about that more later because I just started it. Overall, it seems like kind of the same thing. So I'll talk about that when I play it next week. But I very, very, very highly recommend Monument Valley. It's extremely nice to play. And then I played another classic puzzle game. This is from the Xbox 360 era. Really kind of set the stage for the future of independent games when it came out, and that's Braid. I had never played it, and I didn't like it very much. I think that it was a little obtuse in some ways. I think it aged a little poorly. The visuals are very nice, especially in this anniversary edition that I got for $5. I was surprised it was $5 because it's a $20 game and it just came out this year, so it was on sale 75% off. I was like, holy cannoli. But I didn't really like the level design. I think the fact that you can just play the game start to finish and ignore 90% of the puzzles is a weird design. And I get that, like, you can't get to the final level unless you do all of the side stuff, but it seems strange that most of the levels are just a straight line and you choose which puzzles you want to do. I feel like it would be more interesting to have, like, core puzzles that you're required to finish for the game, and then a bunch of maybe some side puzzles as well for those who really want to get their fill. But I really didn't like it very much, and I feel bad saying that, but I think the reverse mechanic, because the whole thing is you can reverse time, I don't think it's very interesting in practice. I think it was very important when it came out, but I don't know if it's aged particularly well. So I feel really bad about that one because I was excited to play it. It's such a piece of history for independent games, but oh well.
If you don't like it, you don't like it.
I don't like it. Sorry. But something I did like, not a video game. Arcane Season 2 came out. It's 9 episodes, and it is the final season. There's only going to be 2 seasons. I watched the first 6 episodes because episodes 7, 8, and 9 came out today. I have not had time to watch them. I am really liking it. Kind of similar to the first season. The first few episodes were not amazing because there was a lot of setup going on. But now that the story's really rolling, I am all in. I really, really like it. It's kind of a stiff competition for me between it and Fallout, like that for like my favorite video game adaptation of the year. I'm going to have to finish it before I say that, and I definitely will before next week, or next episode, I should say. So I'll have my final opinion, but it's really exceptional. It's a lot different than the first season, which surprised me. My only definitive downside is this season has like an over-reliance on montage. So there's like action scenes that are just like over-stylized action of just like crazy things happening, and I'm like, it feels like almost every episode opens that way, and it's not always very interesting, and there's not a lot of narrative thrust behind it. And the narrative is kind of why I'm there. The characters are really interesting. The action's fun, but the only time I really, really get in on the action is when it's a set of characters I love. I don't get in on it inherently. It's because I love the characters, and seeing them have conflict with each other is super cool and super interesting. So, but I really highly recommend the show. If you've never watched it, definitely check it out. The first 3 episodes of season 1, if you finish those and you are not all in, it's not for you. But I'd be surprised if you made it through 3 episodes and weren't all in. So, yeah, I'll talk about that more next week, but I'm really loving it. It's visually incredible. Story's incredible. Characters are incredible. Action's very fun. And I'm very invested in the storyline. Very, very curious to see how it ends at this point, because it's gone directions I really didn't expect. I also tried another video game adaptation, and that's Yakuza Like a Dragon, or Like a Dragon Yakuza. I'm not clear. I think it's Like a Dragon Yakuza on Amazon. It's a live action adaptation of the Yakuza series. I started it. I watched the first episode, and I didn't really like it. It's fine. It's like fine. But why would I don't know. The whole thing is that like Kiryu's story is the main appeal of most of the original Yakuza games. And Kiryu's just not as interesting in this one. Yeah, so I'm a little disappointed I didn't like the Yakuza show, but, you know, I didn't really need it. There's so much Yakuza content, I don't really need more.
Yeah.
But the big new game I played this week is the new release of Dragon Quest III 2D HD Remake. I am not a huge Dragon Quest guy. I think I have, you know, a reverence for the series, but I haven't really played much. I played 11 partway through years ago, and that's it. But I was really inspired by the visual design of this one. I love the 2D HD team, so I decided I wanted to get in on it. I'm a number of hours in. I think I'm like 4 or 5 hours in. Just came out last Thursday, I mean. So I think it's extremely straightforward. It is an RPG from 30, 40 years ago, so there's not a ton of depth. There hasn't really been any story besides like the go here, then go here, then go here. So there's not a lot of story for me to talk about thus far. Your dad disappeared years ago, and now you're on a journey, and that's basically all I have. But it is, because it's so straightforward and so simple, I kind of am enjoying it. It's just, you kind of just zone in and feel it. Sometimes I've been turning on like a little bit of YouTube, a little bit of podcast, just enjoying what I'm playing through. The music's really nice. It's all orchestrated by the Japanese Philharmonic Orchestra, which is really cool. And the visuals are incredible. They really did an incredible job with this 2D HD remake. That team just gets better and better. I'm going to keep playing it. I don't 100% know that I'm going to finish it, but probably will. It's just one of those games, there's not a ton of depth, so it might lose me, but I do want to finish it, so we'll see where I land next week. I think I'm going to keep trying at least. And I feel bad because I haven't really touched Metaphor, and I was 10 hours in, so yeah, we'll see where I end up, but I am enjoying it overall. If you're a huge fan of the Dragon Quest series, then yeah, go for it. It's a really cool piece of history recaptured, but if you're not big on that series, or maybe not big on turn-based RPGs, then I don't know if I highly recommend it. So, but still cool, and I'm excited to see what they do with the 1 and 2 remakes next year as well. So,
yippee!
So we had an episode today, Kelly.
Yeah. Oops.
I mean, we knew. It's been a while. There's a ton of news, and we played a ton of stuff, and the Game Awards nominees got announced. So we're coming up on holiday Game of the Year 2025 preview, episode 150. It's all coming out real quick.
Yes.
So
very much so.
But
hey,
yeah,
thanks everybody so much for listening to this week's episode.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thank you, Andrew.
I guess I did it. I didn't really listen,
but you will, and you will hear my exciting message to you, subliminal.
Yes.
Anyway,
we took a very brief break, and Kelly just talked for 3 minutes, so I'll get to listen to that when I'm editing.
Yippee! Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. And have a good day, and a week, and a month, and a year, and have a happy Thanksgiving if you do that. Bye.